Okay, it's 3 o'clock by the clock in the back. So we have a quorum here today, and we are ready to get underway. I do want to tell you that we don't have a minister in the house today, so I have been asked to give our invocation today. So if you can please stand with me. Lord, we thank you for being present today. We thank you for being present in our lives. We acknowledge you as the creator of this universe. Lord, no matter what other people may say, we know that there's an intelligent design, not only to this universe, but Lord, to our community as well. We ask you to be with our decisions today. Guide them, direct us. Lord, help us to be fair, help us to be honest, and help us to be forthright with each other. I thank you for the volunteer men and women who have volunteered their time and their efforts and their talents to making this place a better community for all of us. Help us to work together in a unified fashion. I ask you these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor to Texas.
I pledge allegiance to thee, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, welcome today. We're going to start off, as we typically do, with our announcements and staff recognition. I think Mr. Jeff Koska has the first announcement today.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor and Council. It's an honor to be here. Truly like your prayer. I think we love being in this place, and God is always here. So really thank you for that. I'd like to introduce a new employee, Pamela Turner. Please stand up. Do you know your high school fight song? Okay, Pam has joined us as administrative assistant for the police department. Pam has 26 years with the state of Texas. She spent the last 2 years in Marble Falls ISD in the after-school program called ACE. Lots of patience there, I can tell you. That's probably my grandkids were in there too. So Pam joins us the police department with an extensive background in administrative support. Pam and her husband, Jeremy, enjoy hunting, fishing, and other outdoor activities and live in Burnett. Please help me welcome Pam.
Welcome, Pam. Welcome. We look forward to getting to know you a little better while you're getting your sea legs under you. Now, I think, Ray, are you going to do this? Okay. Ray Garcia has a 5-year anniversary for us for utilities.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council, those in attendance. Mayor and Council, November 2025 marks Jason Thames' 5 years of service to the city of Horseshoe Bay and the residents. Mr. Jason Thames recently celebrated his 60th birthday and is the proud father of 4 children, 3 daughters, including a set of twins and 1 son, and the grandfather of 4 grandsons and 3 granddaughters. He holds a dual Class C license in surface water and wastewater, and as of November 9th is eligible to pursue both Class B license. Jason enjoys live music, sports, spending time outdoors. He is grateful to have served the city for the past 5 years and looks forward to continuing his service for another 5. He would like to extend his sincere appreciation to all council members, past and present, as well as mayors, city manager, assistant city manager, utilities directors, his supervisor, and the fellow employees for their support and collaboration. Please join me in recognizing Jason Thames for his exemplary 5 years of service and dedication to the city of Horseshoe Bay.
He's the guy that keeps your water safe.
Thank you, Jason. Okay, Jeff, do you have the next one? Our leadership certification graduates?
I am pleased to recognize the following employees who have successfully completed the 2025 Texas Tech Leadership Program and received their certification. This distinguished professional development program consists of 10 consecutive sessions delivered by highly skilled and respected faculty of the Texas Tech University, and good football game team too. The curriculum covered essential leadership competencies, including critical thinking and problem solving, effective communication, financial management, leadership challenges, team building, and other vital topics. The program culminated in a capstone project where participants applied their newly acquired skills to real-world workplace challenges, presenting their results during a final session in a program. Where's Susan? Get up there, Susan.
There she is.
The individuals were carefully selected by their department directors based on their demonstrated commitment to professionalism, professional growth, and their potential to serve our next generation of community and city leaders. We are exceptionally proud of their dedication and achievement. Their enhanced leadership capabilities will directly support our ongoing commitment to maintaining high standards of municipal service for the benefit of our community. I ask that you join me in the recognition of their investment in professional excellence in their successful completion of this valuable leadership development program. And that would be Dalton Poe, Brian Rodriguez, both out of utilities, both are crew leaders, and Susan White, our financial accountant. And they're going to have a short presentation now on their program. No, they're not. Thank y'all very much for that. Very much appreciated.
Got to get a picture.
PR.
Hey,
PR.
Jeff, I just want these people to know that getting a certificate from Texas Tech is just like getting one from Harvard. So
Oh, yeah, that's right. Awesome. Yes, Molly. There you go, Molly.
Sideways.
Got to get your picture in there.
All right. Thank y'all very much.
Good job.
3 new leaders. That's great. Somebody once told me, I asked them, how do I know if I'm a good leader? And they said, well, if nobody's following you, you're not a good leader. So I think that's indication right there. We come now to public comment, which is our time to allow people a maximum of 3 minutes to talk about matters of the community. It is something that is not on the agenda, therefore the council cannot engage in dialogue with you. So don't think we're not interested. We just cannot follow up with any questions or any dialogue. So we have right now Rob Hardy, the mayor of Sunrise Beach, who would like to speak. 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. I promise I won't take 3 minutes. Mayor, council, staff who really run the show, I want to let y'all know that. I am Rob Hardy. I'm the mayor of Sunrise Beach, and I really believe cities need to work together. We only have 3 of them out here. We also have a large community. It's not a city. We won't talk about that today. I am running for Llano County Judge and participate a lot in Mayor Pro Tem's Gun and Choir Club down at Quail Point on Wednesday and Thursday mornings. Don't ask me why that comes from. And I really just want to introduce myself and tell you, really appreciate the fact that you're part of Llano County and pledge to we'll always work together.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming today. Rick Overholt is going to speak about Richter Ranch. Is that correct? postal kiosks.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'd just like to mention and clarify, because a lot of time there's confusion about who's responsible for putting in the kiosk. And often people will say, well, it's the POA's responsibility, when in fact, if you look at the postal regulations, it's the developer's responsibility when they develop the properties. So I know you can't have dialogue with me, but I hope to hear back. This is on our POA agenda for tomorrow. One of our items regarding Richter is postal kiosks. Right now, we're short about 36 boxes around proper and up in the uplands, kind of all over the place. And we just have this fear that if they start building out there, we'll be short another 125. And we're not in a position to enforce that as a POA with the developer, so we're hoping the city, and you might have already done this, so it's done. Okay, then I can go home.
I had to make sure, I had to get Dottie's blessing to say anything first, but that is a requirement. We will require that as part of the construction documents.
Excellent. We'll quit worrying about it. And that's all I had to say.
Good fast work, Rick.
What's the solution of the?
Well, we can't engage in conversation.
Kidding, have a good day.
Thank you, thank you, thank you all. Appreciate everybody.
Thank you, Rick. That brings us to our presentation, which is for information purposes only. No vote is going to be taken, no action is going to be taken. We have an opportunity to have presentations by applicants to the city boards, commissions, and advisory committees. I think we've heard from everyone last month, who has applied for this. If you're applying, please let me know.
Yeah, we've not received any other applications. I think we have cleared those, so.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Then that brings us now to our business part of the agenda. And it follows up on what we just talked about, and that is the appointment of our applicants who are rotating off of these two committees, the Board of Adjustments and the Planning and Zoning. We have 3 that are rotating off, and we have 3 that have applied. Amazing, amazing. And the 3 that have applied for Planning and Zoning are, help me out here, Samuel Lee, Leo Boutte, and Willie Reinders. And I know Willie's out here right now, and he spoke last month. And we can either take these now, or we can, because they are subject to the Open Meetings Act, we can take them into executive session. So if no one has any objection, I'd like to vote on these now, unless someone has an objection. Okay, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion. I move that we approve adding Samuel Lee, Leo Boutte, and William Reinders to the Planning and Zoning Committee.
As members.
As members.
We've got a motion by Councilman Hosea. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Weatherby. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. It carries. Welcome to the Planning and Zoning. Now, that brings us to the appointment of the chair, and actually, we need a chair for that as well. And I would suggest that you make a motion for the chair continuing, if you don't mind.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we move to have continuation of Samuel Lee as head of Planning and Zoning on a go-forward basis for this year.
Motion by Mr. Hosea, second. Second by Mayor Pro Tem Morgan. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Question for you, though.
Yes,
I'm
excuse me.
confused. If Samuel Lee's going to the Planning and Zoning, how's he going to be the chairman?
We aren't on the Board of Adjustments. We're still on the
Oh, okay,
Planning and
okay,
Zoning.
okay, sorry.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Now we have a full board, and we also have a chairman of Samuel Lee. Thank you, Mr. Hosea. We're now going to move to the Board of Adjustments, and we have the same issue there. We have 3 openings, and we have 3 applicants as well. and they are Michael Appleby, and they are
Ron Christensen and Tom Farrell.
and Tom Fairley. And I'm going to ask you the same thing. Does anybody have any objection to taking this off of the executive session and voting on them now? Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion. I move that we add these to full-time membership, Ron Christensen, Tom Fairley, and Michael Weatherby to the Board of Adjustments as full-time members effective this year.
Appleby, okay. And how about the chair?
I don't know.
Dale Umstead?
Oh, yeah, Dale Emstead
Okay, yeah.
continue as the chair.
Yeah, we're technically supposed to
Okay, I didn't know that.
do that as well. Okay, so the motion then is to continue the chair of the Board of Adjustments as Dale Umstead, and appoint Ron Christensen, Tom Fairley, and Michael Appleby as
Full-time member.
full-time members of the Board of Adjustments. Do I hear a second? Second by Council Member Waddell. And all in favor, aye? Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. We have a Board of Adjustments. We're going to, with the permission of council, we're going to delay the appointment of the members of the capital improvements, which is the impact fees, to the following council meeting, unless anybody has an issue with that. Okay, I hear no issue, so we're going to table that until the following meeting.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Our next item of business is going to be a report from Friesen Nichols regarding the developmental design standards and subdivision regulations, which we have really been interested in.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Yeah, I'll intro you. So I won't read verbatim, as usual, the staff report. But Friesen Nichols, the city has contracted them to assist with our subdivision ordinance and some other things related to that. Part of that is that they make a presentation to council, ensuring that we're all on the same page and that they're meeting the objectives y'all have set out. So they will present that now, and then obviously it's a business item, so if y'all have any direction or want staff to go in a certain way, that's the purpose of this. So please ask questions, et cetera. So this is Friesen Nichols. I'll let them introduce themselves and then we'll go from there.
Thank you all so much. My name is Wilson Kerr. I'm the project manager from Friesen Nichols, working on the subdivision regulations project. Thank you all so much for having us today. Went the wrong way. Sorry about that. So for the agenda for what we'll be presenting today, just do a quick intro of our team and then do an overview of the project and show you all where we are within the project. What we're presenting today is what we call the diagnostic report. So I'll be doing an overview of that, just a brief overview of each of the sections that we were looking at. And you all have a copy of that as well in your packet, so you all can read through that. And then I'll hand it over to Rick to talk about needs for an engineering criteria manual update as well. And then we'll talk about, I do have some questions on here for a project discussion if we wanted to open that up, or I can send you all home with some homework and we can skip those because I know that you all might want to expedite the presentation as well. And then we'll talk about next steps and we'll let you all move on with the meeting. So our project team, as I mentioned, my name is Wilson Kerr. I am a project manager. We also have Laura Socaras here with us. She is one of our project planners out of our San Antonio office. Also on the project, we have Chance Sparks. He's our principal in charge. Chance has been, he works out of our San Marcos office. He's been around the Central Texas region for a very long time, working in many cities, and he's been with Friesen Nichols now for about 10 years. We also have Evan Olszewski, who couldn't be here today with us because he just welcomed his fourth kiddo. So we're happy to give him a little bit of time off there. And then we also have Lavender Pack. She is out of our Dallas office. She's also a project planner, one of our younger planners on staff. So we're happy to have her on board, and she's learning a lot through this process as well. And at the bottom here, it says a deep bench of talent and expertise. We have about 45 planners on staff that we can call on if we need some additional help or expertise. Within this, we also have, we're first and foremost an engineering firm, so we have those engineers that we can talk to as well, and that we can bring in if we're moving forward with an engineering criteria manual update as well. So the scope of work, the project understanding was to develop and update the city's subdivision regulations consistent with standards, procedures, and best management practices in Texas. And the timeline is below. I'll go into a little bit more detail in our schedule and a couple more slides. But right now, after we present here, we're going to really shift into our production mode. That's where we get into the writing and the creation of the new document and the new code. We'll be doing that for about 5 months, and then in April, we'll be presenting that to you all and then finalizing any updates that you all have, and then we'll come back to you all for adoption in June of next year. So all in all, this is about a year project. We started in June with the diagnostic report. There was a little bit of a break as there was some staff transition here. So we've been working with Rick to make sure we're still moving forward. As you can tell up top, we have some ongoing internal and external coordination on the team, and then right where that star is in the middle, that's where we are today. It's a little small to see, but we have broken the project down into 3 different modules to help us really focus on those areas that we're working on and not move on without making sure that we have completed those modules. So with our meetings and engagement, we have monthly check-in meetings with city staff. We had our on-site kickoff and city tour over the summer where we drove around the city, made sure that we got to know the area as best as possible and got to know your staff as best as possible and what their needs are. And then we have 3 scheduled council check-ins on here. So this is the first of those 3. We'll have a mid-project check-in as well, and then that final check-in before we move to adoption, and then 1 adoption meeting with you all. So the diagnostic tech memo, it is really what it sounds like. A diagnostic report or a diagnostic tech memo, we kind of look at the code as a doctor would your health. So we make sure that we look at for all of the issues within the code as it is today, and we diagnose those issues and present those to you all so that you all know what we're working on moving forward. It's kind of since we're doing this as in a tech memo format, it's a bit of a higher level diagnostic review of the code. And we also compare the code today as it is today to similar cities within the region and the state. And then within the tech memo as well, we have some recommendations moving forward for the ECM update. So bold up here, these are the foundational components throughout the tech memo. I'll be going over the bolded portions today. So the current state of the subdivision regulations. I'm going to hand it off to Laura to talk about codes in similar cities and the drainage and stormwater management. We are not going to talk about landscaping and tree preservation today, but we do have a section in here devoted to that if you want to review that. And then I'll hand it over to Rick to talk about the engineering criteria manual needs. And then we also looked at the survey results from the comprehensive plan to make sure that our update is in line with what the city is wanting to see moving forward with development. And then a project timeline, which I did just kind of go over with you all. So as I mentioned, we broke this down into 3 different modules. So the first one covers divisions 1 and 2 of the subdivision regulations, which is the general section and the administrative section. Moving on to module 2, so this is divisions 3 through 7, a lot of the procedures and platting procedures, what comes to you all, what we can maybe change to being administratively approved, and then discussing all of the different plat types within the code. And then module 3, that is divisions 8 through 12. That's where we're talking a lot about that parkland dedication, parkland and recreation facilities, private and public streets, and construction standards, as well as variances and waivers. So some of the major issues that we found, first was in this module 1, a theme that you'll see throughout this was clarity. We saw a lot of duplications throughout the code as we were reading it, and a lot of redundancies, so we want to make sure that we are avoiding that. The next thing that you will see is the relocation and enforcement and appeals section to processes and administration. These are located right now in that administration section. These should definitely be moved to the procedures and the processes section so that there's just one place that developers and code users are looking at for all of those things. And then we want to make sure that we're using cross references as well once this is uploaded to the website to make it easier for people to navigate throughout. And then updating and incorporating details regarding topography and drainage. A lot of the code, as we saw it today, was adopted from other cities that didn't necessarily have the same topography or drainage issues that you all have. So we want to make sure that whenever we're looking at the code, we want to make sure it is specific to Horseshoe Bay. Next is Module 2. So we noticed that there are a few outdated processes within the code that don't align with state legislative updates. State legislature meets every 2 years, and they generally make updates to code requirements. So we want to make sure that this is updated to meet the most up-to-date standards set down by the state. We also want to make sure we're centralizing all the procedures into one division, relocating application content requirements, and what forms can be adopted by city manager to one area, and then clarifying drainage and runoff study requirements. That's a very important portion as well. Next is Module 3, so that's Divisions 8 through 12. So we want to confirm that the minimum acreage, what the minimum acreage is that triggers that parkland dedication within the city. Make sure that that is very clear throughout. As I mentioned earlier, just adding a lot of clarity to the document. And then considering the addition of partial exemption or fee in lieu of parkland dedication, that's not currently within the code, so we want to make sure that that is there, that is aligning with best practices throughout the state. And then combining a couple of the sections as well, 8 and 10, we want to combine those into one design standard section because there are a lot of redundancies within those two divisions, so making sure that we are reducing those redundancies. And then at the bottom, you'll see adding graphics and illustrations. That's really important when we're looking at a code. Codes can be wordy and can be a little bit boring. So we want to make sure that there are those graphics and illustrations that can bring people to further understand what the code is saying and make it just a lot easier for code users to use. So now I'll hand it over to Laura to talk about the next part.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So as Wilson mentioned, my name is Laura Sakharos. I'm a planner with Friesen Nichols as well. And I'm a little shorter than Wilson, so I'll mark this down. So in going through the diagnostic effort, we really wanted to highlight some codes in similar cities that may have elements that we want to propose incorporating within Horseshoe Bay's code within the subdivision regulations. And so I'm going to go through these three. That doesn't mean these are the only ones we're ever going to look at. If there are any other cities that you feel merit us looking into, we're happy to do that through this process. But I'm going to go through these real quick. So Bee Cave, Hutto, and Lakeway were the ones that we chose. So Bee Cave's UDC we felt warranted highlight just because it has a very streamlined structure, and it is laid out in such a way that is very clear to a code user. So if you go in and you're looking for a specific type of permit or a specific process, it kind of follows sequentially what you would expect in that development process. And so that makes it very straightforward and transparent as people utilize that code document. It also references checklists and manuals that are housed outside of the Unified Development Code, making the updates to those checklists and manuals a lot more streamlined, so that when the submittal requirements are changed for procedural reasons or for state law changes, that those are a little bit easier to amend administratively versus going through the whole code update process. Hutto's UDC was another example that we felt really would inform y'all's Unified Development Code as well. The items that we really wanted to highlight, again, were the structure, making sure that that criteria is outlined in such a way that flows really well, and also incorporating flow charts and graphics. So I don't know about y'all, but I'm a very visual person, and so when I go into a code, having it laid out to me 3 different ways is always great. And so that's really the goal in both Bee Cave and Hutto as an example, providing that clarity and transparency through the entire code process. And then also something not necessarily unique to Hutto, but something that we felt needed to be highlighted was that the important information was all at the beginning. So the more common development items were listed at the beginning so that they were easier to access for the code user, with the things that are a little bit more rare, like variances and appeals, were at the end. And then third, Lakeway subdivision regulations, we felt warranted highlight as well, mostly for the Hill Country specific regulations to address drainage, runoff, and topography. Now, this doesn't mean we're gonna go and copy paste Lake, right? But what we wanted to do is make sure to highlight that it is possible to have those very specific regulations to tie in to the topo that y'all are experiencing and the frontage to Horseshoe Bay. And so, last but certainly not least in my portion is the drainage and stormwater item. So we felt that this really merited a highlight of its own. I would say maybe 75% of the feedback that we got, if not more, was the need for more clarity in the drainage and stormwater regulations within the code, and updating those in such a way that made it very clear what is required and when it is required, and making sure that the City of Horseshoe Bay's requirements align with the Highland Lakes ordinances and all of the other applicable codes and ordinances relating to drainage and stormwater, so that as people are going through the development process, there aren't surprises, right? So if someone is submitting a plat, submitting construction plans, the goal is to have it very transparent that this is your checkpoint where those drainage and stormwater calculations and plans are required, and this is what is necessary to gain approval. So that's a very broad brush way to highlight drainage and stormwater, but the goal is to really amp that up in y'all's code. And so with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Rick on the engineering criteria manual, but we're happy to support in that discussion as well.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So I'll go through this pretty quick. One thing to point out too that's a little bit out of this presentation is they did include Hutto. They've been working on this for about a year. It's Fortuitous is our new director who will start Monday for development service is from Hutto, and so he had quite a bit of input into the creation of their subdivision regulations as well. So that'll be a little bit of a leg up for us. We didn't know that at the time, but it just kind of turned out that way. So for the engineering criteria manual, that's essentially which y'all understand, but just for the sake of everybody in attendance. So chapter 10 is our subdivision regulations. There are a lot of words and direction, et cetera. What ends up happening is, and I'm not picking on them, but like similar to Richter Ranch, is we have an engineering firm that comes in and they have a way of doing things, and so they bring their brand to it. And we've sort of got to sift through all of that, send it to our engineers. We have this back and forth. So the advantage of an engineering criteria manual that's specific to us is it lays out all the methodology, procedures, how we want to see the calculations, formatting, and all of that. So it ensures that y'all are seeing the same thing if they come to council or staff. We're seeing the same type of information in the same format each time, so we don't have to sift through it. I'm not dogging engineers, but they're intelligent, and not that they're trying to mislead us, but they have certain ways of doing stuff that things can get lost, and so we don't want to see that. We do refer to the city of Austin in a couple of areas, and then we have criteria. We have drainage criteria manual and a transportation manual and all those things, and even the two that we have now don't necessarily overlap in every direction, so there is a little bit of a conflict in that. So that's all kind of blitz through this, but that is a part of this that's a little bit out of the planning scope section of it, but is something that when we do this updating that manual at the same time would be a staff request. So That's pretty much it. You all have lots of questions?
Oh, yeah.
And then,
Now, the difference between, let's go with drainage. Can you hear me? Let's go with drainage first. I understand we can come up with something for a subdivision. What about an individual property? We'll be able to take some of that in context from this part?
Yes, sir.
Be able to apply?
yeah, how we'll do this too is we'll provide them, if y'all agree to go that route, we'll provide them our current drainage criteria manual and transportation. Our current drainage does have a single-family residential, but one thing that isn't clear to it that we'd like to update is we're not clear enough, in my opinion, of when it triggers an engineering drainage study or even exactly what that is we're wanting to see. There are instances, a lot of times it's with culvert sizing, and if they're gonna alter topography, and then the last house, we have some areas, I won't say them out loud, but we have some areas in the city where there's sort of the last house in a row of 100, and maybe they undersized their culvert because they didn't study everything behind it or upstream, and so it can create issues.
What about now that we've studied these different watersheds, that we've identified properties that people own that they'll never be able to build on because of drainage issues?
That's more in the drainage part. That's the
Yeah.
program we're developing, the drainage, and we are be looking at those
So
properties.
we'll have a standard that's saying.
Yes,
Because
yes.
right now, there's nothing. I mean, like I said, people own
Yeah.
properties that, once we get this, we're gonna say you can't build on it.
Right, yeah, it's either that or they have to do a drainage to show that they will not impact upstream or downstream
Okay.
impacts, and they have to build around that, so that's part of the criteria.
Yeah, we don't, to be direct, we don't want to tell them they can't. We just want to say, in order for you to do it, you have to jump through all of these hoops. And if you can achieve that, it's okay. But mostly from the staff perspective, we want to make sure that they understand up front, here's what we're requiring and here's how we're requiring it, so that we get something we can actually evaluate.
I guess my question really falls down to, I know of properties that once we get all the watershed identified, that these people did not know, they just bought a piece of property.
Right.
And now all of a sudden, we're gonna say, you can't, this is what's gonna have to happen, and they're not gonna be able to build on it. How are we gonna address that?
Well, that's part of the policies we develop with the drainage
Okay.
plan, because part of that might be that we have a program to where we'll seek grants to purchase property that are in the floodway.
Okay.
And that's part of that development of
kind of-
that drainage program.
Because that's,
We're working, yeah.
because it was a buyer beware, but
Yes, sir.
I'm saying we're putting in regulations after they had purchased this years ago, or, potentially, that we're saying it's because of these new regulations. What I'm trying to get at is I want to avoid lawsuits.
Sure. Yes, sir.
Very understandable. That's part of why we write the policies and the regulations around that, because they can possibly make, but if they cannot, then there's grant money and some other options. But yeah, and then the city can take action as well if we wanted to.
Well, and that's also true with regard to all other aspects of construction.
That's right.
Plumbing requirements change, electrical requirements change. Yes, the drainage problems change, but as long as there's a way to build, we're not preventing building.
Yes, sir.
We're requiring. And is this, are we changing things drastically substantively, or is this more of a procedural so that people can find it better type of?
So it's a bit of both. So there are some of your regulations that are currently on record right now that do not meet industry standards or state regulations.
Okay.
So those will need to be updated, and also some of your regulations that you have updated from other cities really don't work with the topography of this city. So we will be updating those regulations, and then we'll also be making sure that we're streamlining the document for ease of use as well.
It's very helpful to these folks up here if we can have a red line approach so that we can see every change that's made and why.
Yeah, we do that. That's our internal procedure. We always have that red line. our archive folders are full of older red lines throughout the project so that we make sure that we have the most up-to-date red line document as possible so that we can send that to you with a clean version so you can compare.
And I know that Rick's been telling you about the intricacies of our community here, but I find this community to be very unique, very unique. We don't have schools. We're not in the position of lobbying for big businesses to come in necessarily. We don't have very many red lights. We like our small town community. We're largely, a lake and resort community. And while we don't mind seeing progress, we want to make sure that the total aspect of our community is retained, which I want to make sure that we don't become a Hutto or a Lakeway or, every time I go to Austin, I see that Skywater or whatever it's called over there, Sweetwater, and it just infuriates me because all I see is,
Yeah, and we understand that, and that's why we make sure that all of our regulations that we write are specific to each city. We don't do a cut and paste.
Right.
We want to make sure we're sending every document, every change to you all so that we can get an okay from you all or from city staff. We want to make sure we're having that true open dialogue with you all.
super. And then the red line approach helps us determine whether, if we want to jimmy with that at all. And so before it's finally adopted, we can play with that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, the next question I have has to do with cut and fill. Is there anything that prohibits us from a state standpoint, if we set standards for cut and fill, that will eliminate building in certain areas because they're never going to be, if we come up, what I'm getting to, if we come up and say, whatever the number is for cut and fill, and is there something that they can go back to the state and say, well, the state doesn't require that? Can we set up our own cut and fill, and as a result, that will eliminate some areas that they build on?
So the goal of updating the drainage and stormwater section will be to establish those clear criteria for cut and fill. That is an extremely common occurrence in this area, especially with y'all being beholden to the Highland Lakes watershed ordinance. That in itself has cut and fill requirements that we would want to be cognizant of. Now, to your point, to say, well, we're going to put X cut and fill requirement in order to prohibit, that's really not the goal of that requirement. But if it does prohibit development in certain areas, the code would have mechanisms for how to develop properly for that topography.
All right,
I don't know if that answers your question.
kind of, but let me take you to the next step. We have examples currently of cut and fill that should never have been done. Okay, so if we come up with a new standard for cut and fill, and somebody says, well, what about over here, or what about over there? Are we, again, in a liability standpoint?
No, you're not.
Yeah.
You can always change construction regulations
Okay.
under state law.
Okay, good.
Right.
That's the right answer.
Right.
Well, I didn't want the planners to have to give
Yeah,
a legal answer.
Dottie has spoken.
Yes, I always give the asterisk, we are not attorneys. We're the planners, but we can certainly tailor that in such a way that makes sense for Horseshoe Bay.
Okay.
And also, I'd like to say, we've worked with Dottie before, and Hutto, we work closely with the city attorneys to make sure that everything that we're doing follows state law, and making sure that they're reviewing it as well as you all.
Because if we take an aggressive stance on cut and fill, it's going to make certain areas in Horseshoe Bay almost unbuildable. And I just want to make sure, because I want to do that. To Jeff's point earlier, I mean, that's how we preserve this community, is by really, here's your cut and fill requirement, so that eliminates certain properties. And that's a natural way to do it. So that's going to be the thing I'm going to be the most interested in, that and the drainage, and how you guys resolve that for us.
When I will say a lot of the feedback that we've gotten has been to clarify the code, but I just want to make sure to reiterate that clarifying is not making it easier on developers, right? So our goal, our direction that we've received that thus far is to make those regulations extremely clear so that there isn't that gray area where there's negotiating points and legal questions. The more clarity, the better in that regard.
Well, we've had this code since 2007, and we've amended it a number of different times. I can't find hardly anything in there when I'm going to look. And to your point, it's important to make sure that the inconsistencies, which I have found on there, become then consistencies in a single place. So that's good as well. And I would say this also, I'm glad to see that you've included the, what we call LUDAC, which is Land Use Development Committee's assessment of what the community really wants. And I'm looking at this, 82%, well, actually 67% want a lifestyle destination community, a resort-centered community, a lake community, and active adult community. So we need to keep that in mind as we go forward, because I doubt Hutto is like that, and I know Lakeway is not like that.
Right,
So,
absolutely.
Council, do we have any other questions for any of them?
I just want to reemphasize almost the counter of what you said. I'm hoping with this, it will change how a developer looks at certain properties. I mean, that's really, to me, the idea would be it will reduce the number. I mean, I understand what a developer wants to do. I mean, if they've got X amount of land, they want to put as many homes as possible. Well, that screws up our topography. So if we take an aggressive stance with these regulations, then they'll maybe go somewhere else, or what I've always said, build bigger houses on bigger lots instead of smaller houses on smaller lots.
Understood?
Okay, anybody else have anything? Well, I think y'all have some, he's not signed up. Can we let him speak?
Audience member.
Typically, if he hadn't signed up, he's not under your procedures.
Sorry.
But if you want to
Oh, then I'll bend the rules.
suspend, or council doesn't object,
Does the council object to Willie Reinders, who, by the way, is on the PNC?
And the LUDAC.
There was just a couple things I wanted to clarify.
State your name for us, please.
Yes, my name is Willie Reinders, and thank you for the opportunity of asking some clarifying questions. You mentioned that when you put your schedule up, your overall schedule, it broke into 3 phases, the adoption being in June of '26. My first question is then, assuming June of '26 is the date when in fact you're through and it goes for adoption, does it come into force with that adoption? Or is it adopted mid-year and go into force at the end of the calendar year? How does that structure?
that can be up to the council if they want to.
Okay.
So we'll look at that issue.
Okay. My next question is, then, you also mentioned that as you go through and do your updates now and continue to back check against state and industry regulations, that you want to make sure that you stay aligned. Is there some cutoff where you say, we're going to do our work based on regulations in effect as of, let's say, 1 December of '25? Or if regulations change in the interim, does it send you back to square one?
You'll have, that's really a legal question, you'll have an effective date, and then you'll have to look at state law as what amendments can proceed in projects from that date, or whether they have a right under state law to have a permit accrue. And so you're going to have a combination of that, but that's more of a legal analysis.
Okay. And I guess my third question then is, and thanks for bearing with me. if things change, Mr. Horseshoe spoke about his concerns with regard to cut and fill. If, as a result of your study, that the engineering part of cut and fill gets some rework, is it effective as of the issuance or the enforcement of this new set of regs, or does it go back and say, everybody's now got to comply? Or does it only go with work to be done going forward?
There's rules under state law which allows a developer to say, I have a permit in process, and what regulations apply to it, or what future regulations this code would apply on its effective date. The developer gets to pick and choose sometimes. So that typically is a request through the planning staff to apply various regulations, either when the permit was filed or when the new regulations are effective.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's what I was afraid of. So we could be approving something that falls outside of what our standards will be between now and June 26th, or the end of June, whenever that part. So that's a possibility. I just want everybody to know that.
That's true. That's true. That doesn't change anything, though.
No. So Dottie, if I'm understanding
But you
what
have
you
to
said.
remember state law, as a property owner, you can't alter the floodwaters to cause flooding on your adjacent properties. So there's still that
I
state law
understand that part.
standard. So even though they develop and our regulations might not be as stringent as they need to be, property owner needs to be aware of, they do something that's going to cause flooding on adjacent property.
Okay, okay.
Okay, council, I will entertain a motion, which is on page 19, with any changes that you propose. I'm not sure we are far enough along to propose any, but if anybody would like to make a motion?
I move to authorize Freeze and Nichols to proceed with this project as presented.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Morgan. Do I get a second?
I'll second.
Councilman Hosea, and all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All against? No? Motion carries.
Hurry up.
Proceed on.
Hurry
Looking
up.
forward to it. Hurry up. Okay, that brings us now to item E on our business, which is approval of the public funds for public purposes from the City Council Subcommittee. Larry, are you going to present that, or? Oh, Molly is. Sorry, Molly.
Committee. That's okay.
You'd like to make that entry, don't you?
No, that went quickly at the end, so I had to grab my stuff. All right, well, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm here to talk about the public funds for public purposes. There is a subcommittee which consists of Larry Morgan and Elaine Waddell. They have reviewed requests from 4 nonprofits. They are as follows: CASA for Highland Lakes, Phoenix Center, Llano County Child Welfare Board, and the Hill Country Children's Advocacy Center. And they want funding from the Child Safety Fund. They all agreed on it, and they are all 4 of those are eligible for the Child Safety Fee funds. The subcommittee did approve it, and they're recommending city funding in the amount of $1,500 to each of the 4 organizations I just mentioned, and they are the same 4 that got funded last year.
And we have this amount to do every year, and the only criteria is that they support programs for child safety, health, or nutrition, including child abuse prevention and intervention, and drug and alcohol abuse. Correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Molly? I will entertain a motion. It's on page 39.
I move to approve awarding $1,500 each to the Phoenix Center, CASA for the Highland Lakes Area, Llano County Child Welfare Board, in Hill Country's Children Advocacy Center from the Child Safety Fee Fund.
Councilman Weatherby gives a motion. Anybody second?
Second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Morgan. Do I hear all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All against, no. The ayes have it. Moving along,
Me again.
Section F. Yes. Molly.
All right, approval of a resolution 2026-06. We are confirming our authorized designees for a new account with Regions Bank and authorizing all necessary documents. We're authorizing callback designees are as follows. It's Rick Williams, our Assistant City Manager, myself, the Finance Director, and Beth Kuntz, the Senior Accountant. With the Finance Director, I'm only able to execute the documents to maintain and manage the account. I'm not allowed to move any money.
And this is the account that was set up recently for the Summit PID
That is
payoff?
correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
That is
And
correct,
it has not
and-
funded yet.
That's not funded, and hopefully that's next council, and it'll collect all the assessments going forward.
This sets it up then.
Correct.
Okay. Any questions for Molly on this? I'll entertain a motion, which is on page 56.
I move to approve Resolution 2026-06, confirming authorized designees from a new account already previously established with Regions Bank and authorizing all necessary documents.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Morgan. Do I hear a second? Second by Councilmember Waddell. All in favor, aye. Aye. All against, no. The ayes have it. Passed. G, approval to award a contract for cleaning services.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm Molly Jester, and I'd like to introduce Robert Isaac. He is the city's purchasing coordinator. And recently, to ensure compliance with the city, our procurements require an RFP or a request for proposal for services exceeding $100,000. So Robert initiated an RFP for our cleaning services. It was posted on the website. It was also published in the Beacon and the Llano News. And in addition to the public notice, the RFP was distributed directly to the current service provider, Lawns and More. I'll let Robert, Robert is the one. This is a new position that we've hired, or actually just made it citywide. And this is one of his first ones, being citywide. And so I'll let him take over and talk about how the process went.
All right, good afternoon, Mayor, Council, all in attendance. We put this RFP out for cleaning services. Like she said, on those dates, it was published in the newspapers in the city, on the city website. We had a total of 8 responses to this here RFP. And so we, once we got all the responses back, we opened those up to the public. They was due on November the 12th. And so once they was open, we formed a committee. The committee went over each one of those. And you'll see all of this in your paperwork. So I'm just kind of just briefly going over it. But so we opened it up to the committee. The committee took it, looked through all of the RFPs. Everybody came back and we collaborated on those findings that everybody found. We voted on those. You'll see on pages 64, I think, 64 and 63. You'll see like some samples of the committee scorecards. You'll see the master scorecard here on 64. And after that, we all came into agreement that Davis Moving Company would be the best choice for the city. And we use this evaluation chart on page 61 to come up with those answers to those questions that we had. Also, studying the RFP, we found that Davis had like a lot of things that we was looking for going into the future, and it looked like it would make a good relationship with that. Also, if you keep turning, you'll see that in this group, on page 65, you can see how everyone else scored on the cleaning services RFP bids chart. You'll see on the committee ranking how everybody, how all the other respondents scored. And if you turn to page 100, you'll see how that'll take you into the RFP, but it'll also show you how Davis Company broke their pricing down. And you'll see that they was basically in the middle of the road on pricing, but and that was part of the evaluation also on pricing. Overall, you will see that probably from this pricing that we got right now, that we probably are saving, I don't know what percentage it would be, but we will have some savings in our cleaning services on that too.
Over and beyond what we're paying right now,
Yes, sir.
even with the new building?
Yes.
Yeah, if you look on that page where they're listed with the committee ranking, you'll see, and highlighted in yellow is the Davis Moving Cleaning. Their yearly cost is $56,000, and our current vendor is Lawns and More, and they were going to bid $104,000, which included the new city center. So kudos to the group and to Robert. Good job.
Wow.
That's why I say Robert was a really good choice to create a position on purchasing for the city. And we did it for utilities for, I think, 5 years. He was 4 years he was in there, and then he started doing the city, and this is the result of that. We're able to find that there are savings that we have out there by doing the request for qualifications as the city grows.
These prices are all over the board.
They are. They are.
Wow, good job. Okay, any questions for Robert or Molly? I will entertain I did have one other question, and that is, maybe it's a legal question. I noticed that there is a $1 million insurance policy that this company holds, and probably all the companies hold about the same, I don't know. They're going to have access to computers and all kinds of technology, which has sensitive information on it. I'm just wondering, just thinking aloud, is this an adequate amount of bonding for the company?
Typically, the cleaning companies don't touch the computer equipment, and maybe staff can get with them and make sure that they don't touch the computer equipment. I don't know, as your other question about illegal access to, like, an employee comes in to clean and then they just all of a sudden access a computer.
It could happen, I don't know. Anything can happen, I guess.
Yeah, I understand your point too. I think as far as the computer systems, everything is protected with passwords and authentications. However, they're going to be in buildings where there is sensitive material and everything else. And I think there's a certification program that they go through that's part of that. I guess Chief's going to touch on that.
Yeah, for those sensitive information, CJIS requires us to fingerprint them and check their background and all of that stuff before they're even allowed entry into the police department. That doesn't necessarily go for the new city center or this building, but to come into our facility, they have to meet all those certifications.
Which is pretty much the full crew.
Can we not standardize that in all buildings? I like the idea of getting everybody.
We can, I can give a nod once we get those fingerprint results back and all of that. So.
Right. do that.
Good idea. Would anybody like to make a motion on page 60? And you may or may not include a amendment on there for the fingerprinting. I don't know if that nixes the contract or not, but
Would that have an impact on the contract, Robert, if it required all of them?
According to the RFP, all of their employees are fingerprinted, and I think if you go, I was looking for it, I think it's to the closer part of your front part of the RFP. It talks about where all of their employees will be fingerprinted. They all have IDs. They all, and then they also have on-site supervision with them. So I don't foresee that being a problem.
Okay.
And like you said, we'll also have the CJIS certifications.
I may be splitting hairs, I don't know. Any other questions?
No.
for Robert and Molly? I'll entertain a motion on page 60.
I move to approve the service agreement with Davis Moving and Cleaning for cleaning services.
Pending review and approval of the city attorney.
It has gone through.
Right, and we did review it, and we did approve it.
Thank you.
And the only thing they follow up on is the House Bill 1295 form with the city secretary. So somebody will need to remind them to send that in.
Oh, we did that.
Okay.
It's in here.
Okay, we have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem. Do I have a second? Second by Councilmember Waddell. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All against, no. The ayes have it. We're going to be clean again. Okay, we have now a request to consider the Waters Condominium Association change to a lower gallon usage for their water from 5,000 to 2,000 gallons per unit.
Yes, we have David Land, who is the president of the Waters POA Association. Would you like to come up and make a request? I'll just kind of summarize the request as I have it. There's a request on Waters is a single metered. For the city, it's a single meter that feeds the buildings there. So they have multiple meters that are feeding the bigger structures. Inside of the structures, they have meters that for each one of the units. Those are called sub-meters. It's required by state law to have sub-meters. And so the city charges a fee based on the size of the meter, which is the meter that serves all of the unit in that one building. And then they're inside of it, they have these units broken up in there. So each one of the units, the city charges a fixed fee, and then there's a variable fee component to that. And so what they're looking at is, as an average, the Waters units does not use 5,000 gallons, which is included in the fixed fee cost associated with that. And so the request is to come to the city and request that fixed fee, which is 5,000 gallons, be lowered to a lower number, since on average they don't use that much water in there. Am I right on that?
Yes, sir. Doug Land, president of the Waters Homeowner Association. We've done a thorough analysis over the last several years, and we've never averaged 2,000 gallons per unit. So that's why we're asking for a reduction. We feel like we're paying for 5,000, and we're only using 40% or less of that water. So we would request that we be considered for a reduction to a 2,000 gallon minimum.
And so and this has been this way for Horseshoe Bay since the 27 years I've been here. As we look at it, is because there is a fixed fee and there is a variable fee. So everything after 5,000 gallons has a higher price to the gallons used. Obviously, those are tiers rate. As you use a lot more water, then there's a lot more infrastructure costs associated with that. But it was always considered for the stability of the rates from the beginning, because there's so many condos that were here in the beginning, and it still remains that way. There's a lot of condos that there was 5,000 that was part of the fixed fee that will be thrown in there kind of as a kind of as a carrot to be part of the fixed fee. The fixed fee is, the majority of that is not that 5,000 gallons. The fixed fee of that covers all the fixed costs, which is all the water meters, the maintenance on the water line, the line structures, and then the physical plant itself. And so there's a fixed fee that we have, which is a stable fee that kind of runs the majority of the city, and then there's a variable fee, which is based on the usage above that. And so all of the fees that we have, we're associated with that fixed fee and that variable fee. And that 5,000 gallons is not linear. So if you were to take the $40 that is that fixed fee per unit in there and divide it and take that 5,000 gallons, it's not 40 divided by 5 is that number. So the number would be much less than I think what you're thinking it would be. It'd be a very small percentage of that fixed fee.
How much is the fixed fee?
It's $40.60. 60 cents. That's
So
for-
we're
based on
being
the-
asked then to
based on the meter.
reduce $40
Yeah, per unit.
per unit.
In there. And so, and part of that would be, they would like to represent that fee would be reduced because they only use, say, 2,000 gallons per that month in there as an average. Now, when we do that, so let's say the building has 25 units in it, they get a $5,000 gallon credit for that. So any irrigation, also the fire infrastructure is connected to the buildings, they don't get charged for that. So part of that fixed fee is that cost associated with, providing fire service and everything else in there. And it's like I said, it's not linear that, you take the $40 and you divide it by 5 and then, drop 3,000 gallons off that. It's not going to be, $20. It's going to be somewhere, within that. So I don't know if I'm making it, trying to understand that it's not linear on the dollars. That was created to have some 5,000 gallons in there to create stabilities in the rate, and also to allow most of the units out there to have 5,000 gallon credit. So if they had irrigation on their system, it would also include the irrigation without having them to pay a higher fee.
Well, almost half of our, being loose with the numbers, but almost half of our residents are not full-time residents.
That's correct.
And so their houses or their condos or their townhomes are vacant a lot of the year.
Right.
We'd be asked to reduce theirs as well?
Yes, across the board. It would be pretty much across the city. We'd have to change the rates. And I'm not opposed to that. I think that's probably something that we could look at. And, I think in September we talked about that this year the staff was going to be looking at a rate study. And you do those about every 10 years to really look at, to make sure the cost of services within the rates are up to date and inclusive of the numbers that need to be. And we had already started the process. In fact, I think Rick and Ray Garcia, the two folks that are over the top of the water that would do this study, have gone to a course in Florida that was related to it. And so we would go back and look at that. And I would suggest that we go back and look at it and say that we look at it two ways. One, the way we're doing it now, where that's inclusive of that 5,000, and then we would go back and look at that without having it, just having a pure fixed fee. And then, but then if we do that, then there would be no credit to the volumetric charge going there. So any charge that would go through it would be there. And so, we have to look at what that fixed fee would be and what the stability of the rates would be.
So given the fact that we're already studying this and hopefully we'll have a resolution by next year, what is staff's recommendation as to this, to be fair, not only to the waters, but to all these other?
Yeah. I would say we have to deny it at this point in time, but it is something that we need to look at with the rate study coming up. And I would say we would use this as a good example to look at the two options of whether it's good to have this fee in there or to not have this fee in there. Because I think if we looked at this, it would kind of affect the stability of the rates coming in right now to pay for the water system, which could cause some effects, because it would have to be applied fairly across the board. So it's not just the waters that would have to do this, we have to do it across the board. And the other way is that with the credit in there, the irrigation systems that are utilized for this, or the fire systems, might also have an impact on it too, that would be more expensive if we do it, with a fixed fee that covers that cost without that 5,000 in it.
Council, do y'all have any questions for Mr. Land or for Mr. Costa?
Lots of questions.
If I may, one quick clarification. Our irrigation system is not on the city's water system. We have a contract with the LCRA to draw water from the lake, so that we're not using water for that. So that's part of why our average usage per homeowner is, as I say, has never hit 2,000 gallons, and we've got 222 homeowners now. So that's part of our reasoning.
And I agree, that's the truth. There are some condos that are on the water that pull from that. Some don't, some
That needs
do.
to be in our assessment when we go forward.
Absolutely.
I lived at the waters for 13 years.
Yep.
And I paid Manole. I don't know if Manole is still in
Still is,
charge of
yes, sir.
this. And it was constant for those 13 years, and I was here a grand total of 3 weekends a year typically. So
That's
I
why
know
we're trying to
exactly
save our
what you're
homeowners
going
a few
through.
dollars.
Yeah.
We know it's not going to be a big number, but yeah, we would like to save them a few dollars.
Who owns the sub-meters?
The waters.
Okay, so basically all we do is we give them a flat rate for whatever inch pipe that is to the waters. And then that's, their management then subdivides.
Just disperses, yeah, that's.
Okay.
Right.
My suggestion is that we establish a 5,000 gallon rate, a 3,000 gallon rate, a 2,000 gallon rate, and let them decide what they want. Because there's too many variables here that I don't know that Doug and his people have looked at all of it. And I'm not sure that if we've got an all-inclusive rate, and I don't know how their management company is subdividing. So, rather than us get in, this one says that we would approve them reducing 5,000 to 2,000. I think we should just approve having additional rates and let them decide what they want. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Kind of, but I think that also it goes across the board, so
That's fine.
it would be it would be a rate for all condos across the board.
Well, let's let the condos make that decision.
Well,
But I think that the law requires you to do the rate study. If you're going to vary rate between people, you have to have a study that
agree.
justifies it.
study, but not only that, I think with the, if we do that, then I think the cost is going to go up. Because our fixed costs will go up because we have to cover our expenses. So if we look at that rate and we look at those fixed costs are going to go up across the board on everybody. Those that don't use water are probably going to pay more because it's based on that fixed cost being distributed across, a multitude of units and also on the volume. And so it was originally that 5,000 gallons was included to ensure that most of the condos didn't have to pay additional fee. It would be a flat rate fee so they can know what it was going to do. And especially when you have a master meter situation where you have that, and that's why you pay Minol, I think is the name of it. They also distribute it, and they look at those sub-meters, and they bill based on that sub-meters. Whether it's fixed rate, I don't really know. After we send them one bill, and then they take it and disperse that, and I think they look at the sub-meters.
They're not using variable rate. It's divided by 222 homeowners, and each person gets the same bill.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's fair, but we can't really say
Well, that's what I'm saying.
what that is. It really should be by volumetric rate, from Manolo to do that. If you use the rate, you should be paying it, but it should be a base rate. But we don't have any effect on that because you're not getting a bill from us, you're getting a bill from Manolo, right?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
That's my point. That's my point right there. And if I'm reading this, we're talking about changing it from 5,000 to 2,000. I don't think we should do that. I think we should have a rate, a table, and then let them decide what they want.
Well, that's what we
We've
do.
got that.
That's what we do.
I don't see that. It says we're changing it from 5,000 to 2,000.
No, that's their request for us to drop that 5,000 down to 2,000 in our rate. And I'm saying if we were to do that, if the council decided to do that, you'd have to do it for all condos across the board. And then, and before you do that, what I'm saying is we should take and finish up with the study that we're planning on doing. Well, we're starting to right now, in January, we start the process of doing the assessment. and then bring that back to council and say, here's the cost of service to do these rates. And to make sure, because the most important thing is to stabilize, have a stable water fund coming in, so we protect that, so.
I understand that part. I'm still stuck on this. We're developing, we're selling them 5,000 gallons per month, right? Now, their management company is dividing it up and charging the individual homeowners. We don't have anything to do with that.
We're based on a 4-inch meter going into the
Okay,
building.
so
Okay,
4-inch
that's-
meter,
that's a
and
4-inch
we
meter.
got a monthly charge of X, whatever
Yeah,
that is.
that's the $40.66.
All right, so,
And they get a credit for 5,000 gallons, so basically, so they don't pay anything above that, but they're saying is, well, we're closer to 2,000 gallons a month.
okay.
We should be charged, we should not have a credit, we should lower that fixed fee to a lower number, but it's not linear. That's why I'm kind of making sure you understand.
Which I think really is between the condo owner and the condo.
And their
Yeah, that's
management
right,
company.
Yeah, and their management.
Yeah, I'm not,
Yeah,
I don't want to get.
we're good about handling the building inside our organization. That's not the issue.
So-
Yeah, we just feel like we're paying for 5,000 gallons, and as I say, we've never exceeded 2,000 gallons per unit. So that's why we just feel like we're paying for something
Okay.
that we're not using.
I understand Doug's point here, but where I'm still confused on, how does that affect anybody else?
If all rates are going to be, you have to have a class rate across the board, so multifamily
Okay,
rates.
So do we have a class rate now for 2,000 gallons?
For so customer class, which anything that is a meter that serves more than one house. So if it's a 2-inch meter and it has 4 units on it, 4 units pay the base fee to that, yeah.
Okay, I understand that part. I'm still stuck with, if they're requesting 2,000, we have a rate for 2,000?
No.
That's what I'm getting at.
No,
No,
okay.
you don't.
So
We
that's
don't have
the
a
issue.
rate, yeah, that's
That's
right.
the issue.
Yeah,
So
we
can't
have
really
one
do
rate,
this
yeah.
until we have rates.
Right.
But I
Yeah.
think we should have multiple rates.
Well,
and then let
that's
the-
a discussion for
Yeah.
another day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When we get
understand.
that study in.
Okay,
We do have a multiple rate system, but it starts at 5,000 above.
okay.
Yeah, so that's what it
we're
is.
Okay, now I understand that.
Okay,
So,
good.
Doug, do you understand where we're at here?
I think so.
Okay, so until we finish, and Rick, when will that rate study be finished?
So, a couple things with it. We'll start and look through it. One of the things, I'll be very brief because I know this has gone long, but to reiterate what Jeff's saying, we have water plants and water towers and chemicals and pumps, and we have those things
Understand.
whether it be 0 or 5. And so we can go through that. I do want to caution though, like he was saying, we have to make it consistent. The state requires it be consistent across the
understand.
class. So we can reduce it to 2. What we would do in that instance, I think, is we would say that it's the base cost, including 2,000 gallons for free. And so everything from 2 to 5 is additional cost.
Yes.
Okay.
You gotta figure
It's,
your cost for delivering the water, and then how much you're gonna, so I have that, but right now, we can't do this,
So-
because we don't have a 2,000.
6 to 9 months is what the class in Orlando said it would take us.
Okay. Any other questions?
Good. Doug, you
Or
all right with that now?
Mr. Land or Mr.
I understand that, so yeah,
Okay,
we'll sit by and hope for good results.
okay.
Yeah,
next year.
Thank
Mr.
you
Land,
very much for bringing
when we do work through this, we will sit down with you and kind of work through the process and show you kind of where we are.
Perfect.
We certainly want to be transparent about this. It's not like we're trying to take money out
Oh,
of your
no,
pocket.
I understand the process, so no, I genuinely appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Sounds great.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion, which is on page 113.
That motion is tabling this, is it not?
No. No, we've got to deny it.
Okay, all right, I don't have it in front of me, so.
Anybody have 113?
I do.
Read it.
I move to deny the Waters Homeowners Association request to reduce the water allowance from 5,000 to 2,000 gallons per unit and direct staff to continue the comprehensive water rate analysis for presentation during the July 2026 budget process, including an example of how the Waters request would be addressed through the rate study.
Motion by Councilmember Weatherby. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem Morgan. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it. Motion denied. Okay, now we come to our public hearing. And I am going to open the public hearing at 4:24. And it's a request for approval of a sign variance number 2025-03 to Horseshoe Bay and Buffalo in Zone 3. Sandra.
Mayor, council members, the applicant is the Horseshoe Bay Resort, and they have recently, well, let me start it back. This is Horseshoe Bay Boulevard, and this is a little street called Buffalo, and it's a private street. And this is an existing tennis court right here, and the resort has recently built an event pavilion right here, and they'll be opening that fairly soon. And I'll show you the site plan in a minute. And they have built a parking lot in this area right here. And they are right here, so Horseshoe Bay Boulevard is out here. This was Buffalo, and it's just leading right into the parking lot. And right here, so you can see it coming in the entry drive, right here where we've circled it and kind of highlighted it in red is where the sign would be located. And they're asking for a sign that is, our sign requirement is 5.5 feet, and they're asking for 7-foot long sign. So they're they're 1.5 foot too large. And you can see right here, this is the parking lot and the median and what their sign would go. And as you can also see, the sign really does use their same, the resort's same look, the same stone, the same lettering, the same metal, and it's very complementary and very consistent with other signs for the resort. And by carrying those elements through all of their signage, that it does help with the wayfinding. Now, the sign is, like I said, it's only 1.5 foot too long in this direction, and the height is perfectly within our limits as far as the height goes. As you can see, it's a low sign right here, so there's no issue on the height of the sign. They've also committed to international dark skies and the appropriate lighting that goes with the international dark skies. What I'd like to go back here and explain is that Buffalo is kind of a long little street. This is 450 feet long. So this sign is 450 feet away from your major travel lanes in the area of Horseshoe Bay here. Nobody's going to be traveling down here unless they're coming to this heart of the amenity area. So these are your travel lanes here, and this sign is over here, and it's 450 feet away. So staff feels that the proposed size of the sign is really appropriate for the distance it is back from the main travelway of Horseshoe Bay Boulevard. And the applicant is here if you have any questions of them.
Ron, are you the applicant? Oh,
Wes.
Wes. Do you have anything to add?
Howdy, y'all. I'm Wes Koenig with Prevail Project Management, and we manage the commercial construction for Horseshoe Bay. Yeah, I think everything that Sandra said, we feel like, I think the big thing on this is it is very far back from the main path of travel. The sign, there's been various signs around the resort which have been redone, and so it matches those same signs. There's also, you can't see it on here, but let's see. So Buffalo comes down here. You've got your parking lot is right here, and there will be, gosh darn, there's landscaping, which basically, so you have Buffalo comes in, and there's landscaping on both sides. So realistically, from Horseshoe Bay Boulevard, you're not going to be able to see the sign. So ultimately, I think the big thing is this is a big pavilion. There's going to be lots of people coming to it. We feel like it stays in line with the size of the building, the aesthetics, et cetera.
Will you have a sign on Bay West, a smaller sign?
There has been, on Horseshoe Bay Boulevard, there has been
Horseshoe Bay, I saw
there's been a request, a permit request submitted for a directional sign there
Okay.
as well. But that falls in line with the signage requirements.
Okay. Any questions for any of these folks?
Didn't we have a variance on a signage here recently, 2 or 3 months ago?
Yes, we did.
And can somebody remind me what that was?
Well, the one on Caprock.
The resort has received 3 sign variances. The first one was for the Caprock Clubhouse, and that was several years ago.
Yeah.
Then they received one within the last year and a half, for the
Golf Academy?
Golf Academy. And then the most recent one, which was just a few months ago, was for the new clubhouse in Summit Rock, on Summit Rock Boulevard. This sign that they're requesting is smaller than those other 3.
Any other questions?
I have no issue.
I'll entertain a motion.
Oh, can you close the public hearing?
Oh. I have to close the hearing before the, okay. I'm going to close this public hearing then at 4:31 PM. I'll now entertain a motion, which is on page 117. I'll let you buy a vowel if you. Can I give the motion?
Yes.
Oh, but here,
I'm going to give a motion. I move that the city council approve the sign variance request for the event pavilion located at 1112 Buffalo. Do I hear a second?
second.
Second by Councilman Weatherby. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion passes. Now, that brings us to our consent agenda. And first of all, does anybody want to take any of the items on the consent agenda off the consent agenda and debate them?
No.
No? I will entertain then a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the Senate agenda as presented.
Councilmember Hosea gives the motion. Second?
Second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And the ayes have it. Consent agenda is approved. Now we go to monthly reports.
Yes.
I'd like to,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'd like, before I forget, to ask Frank to give a little monthly report on our water issue that happened up at the notice provision that happened close to the airport.
I've talked with Ray on this. I traveled the route. I went over what they had initially. We're talking about the high zone. And to make the connection, they had to shut the water off for 8 hours. Did it turn out to be 8 hours, or did you quicker than 8 hours? No, no, the
High zone.
high zone. All right.
You talking about during the leak? There was a leak a while back.
Okay, why don't you, because I'm not sure about this one. On the high zone, I was.
So there was a connection made at Thataway from a developer for a subdivision, Tres Vistas subdivision. So it was a tie-in that we had there. The communication went out to specific folks there in the area where, to the best of our knowledge, that we knew they were going to have water outages. We had a communication blast sent out by Cindy. And then we also had the developer and his responsibility to go door to door and talk to the folks that were going to have the water outage. So that was also done, and if there was no communication, then the flyer was left in the door. And I think even Cindy can say as well that she was also talked to while she was sending out the blast on that same day. There may have been others in the area, from what we understand, that either didn't see it or are not signed up for that communication blast, is from what we understand. But all efforts were made, and again, to make sure that we had a 48-hour notice. And then also the developer, to his credit, they went door to door and spoke to the folks about the connection that we had. And it was less than 4 hours. We had put out 8 hours, but it was less than 4 hours for the connection.
I think that's very appropriate. The problem we do get into, I think, is that a lot of these folks either don't use technology or never go in their front door to check door hangers. And if it's a small enough area, I think it would be good for us to look at perhaps individual calls on, believe it or not, they still use answering machines, on their answering machine
Yes,
or
sir.
voicemail.
Right.
Yeah, we had the capacity to do that too.
If it's small enough.
Yeah, and Ray and I talked about it, and we're gonna get with Cindy on it, because this particular instance, it was, the water was shut off on Western Bit, and Ross Johnson, who's 99 years old, and his wife is 97, and they had no knowledge of this. And so, and I think it's just that. They have no reason to go to the front door, and they're not part of the blast. So, you know, we have to, some of these cases, we're gonna have to go above and beyond.
Yes, sir.
It's knocking on doors or making phone calls.
And you know, if it's small enough, we can identify what houses are gonna be impacted. If it's too large, then a citywide blast might offer the phone.
Yes, sir. We did talk about that, about if we don't have the proper coverage or we don't know exactly who's going to be affected, that we just do a citywide blast.
Yeah.
And again, with the technology issue, there was also a recommendation by Mr. Ferran too, that we use the his message board, and we set that up for traffic in and out of certain subdivisions as well. So we will continue to improve our information dissemination, and we'll use whatever assets we have to make sure that our citizens are notified.
Good. While you're there, you might as well give a quick update on the high zone and when you see that, because that'll be the next water shut off.
Okay.
So we'll have to
Yes.
do the extra.
So there was also some issues that we, Frank and I, Councilman Hosea and I met on, and we, as he started to talk about, we took a trip on the high zone. There was issues with the street condition, and there was some issues where folks thought that the temporary repair with the cold patch, that was what the city had allowed, and that was it. That is obviously that's not the case. Right now, it is cold patch, and it is what it is in terms of the patch that they lay over the areas where we had laid the high zone transmission main. Some of the things that the folks were had issues with is when you run over that cold patch, it shoots up, and I think we've all experienced this, where it shoots up into your fender wells of your car, and it sounds like the rocks are hitting your car. So some folks made mention of that, and made some adjustments with the contractor and asked them to sweep everything, including the cold patch that they put over. Now, keep this in mind, that the cold patch, there is Tim, if you help me on this, it's 45 degrees and rising in order for that cold patch to stay on. But again, because we wanted to do right by our citizens, I asked the contractor to sweep not only the streets where excess material had fallen onto, but also to sweep the dirt of the actual patch. They looked at me like I was nuts, but I was serious about that, because we did have some issues with some folks. So again, to remedy that, I told them, I said, it doesn't matter, just please sweep the dirt patch as well. So in regard to that, we are, and to Tim's inspection and to Councilman Hosea's inspection and anybody else that drove it, we are constantly monitoring this job. So I'm out there 3 to 4 times a day. My assistant director, Cody Martin, is out there all the time. So again, moving forward with that, the remediation has started, so there's a lot of cleanup happening, and we are also addressing issues with the public in regards to that. We are in the last phases of our testing and inspection. We can't cover anything, and we kind of explained this out. There'll be an article coming out here. Cindy, oh, it did come out last week. Well, we wanted to make sure that the public understood as well in that article that we can't cover anything up until we know that the actual high zone transmission main is inspected and it's passed the required tests.
I think it's the cleanest site I've ever seen. But there's the misconception here is people see cold patch and they thought that was the final product. And it's a perfect example. We cannot communicate enough. We have to do constantly even though you would think that that should be enough, but, all it takes is one person who talks to another person. You see look at our road now. It's got these patches in it, and that's what it was. So Ray has stepped up and made sure that the contractor, and I'm telling you what, I've seen a lot of construction sites. It's the cleanest site I've ever seen. But people have misconceptions. It's not done, but they think it's done when they see a cold patch. And there's still holes in the ground I don't understand it, but we have to, Cindy and I, in anything and everything we can do to market and continue to market. This is not one of those things you do once. You got to do it repetitively, because it just takes one person say, well, did you see this? And then I guess it goes like that. So
we can also set up, excuse me, sir, we can also set up the message board on that one as well,
Yes.
saying that these are temporary repairs, and if you have questions,
I think that
call this
any of that
number as well.
signage that we can do and keep it up there makes sense to do.
We will work with the budget, one, to make sure they got message boards for our construction projects. And two, that is why Cindy has come aboard our communication. We have been trying to kind of continually expand our communication. Are we there? Obviously not, but I can tell you we will use media and even presentations or videos on our YouTube channel if we have to try to get that through. So I understand exactly what you're saying.
Again, we're crossing all the T's,
Yeah.
but we have such a diverse community.
Yep.
And the technology gap is incredible. Some people don't even know what YouTube is, okay?
Yeah.
Yes, that catches some people, but to me, the home run here is like we did for the streets, Tim, that you did on, if we do that in any construction site with messages saying this is temporary, we have to finish this, we're still testing, any of that information that we can put out there on an ongoing basis, that will be the most effective communication. Because otherwise, unless we go door to door and talk to everybody, and that's not realistic. When we can, we should do that.
Okay, we do that.
I know
Let me
that.
just say,
Yes, it's true.
because it's kind of into my report too, what Frank was saying is that you can't communicate enough. I always read Nextdoor, and it got to be a big, long deal, like, oh, city doesn't care, it's the worst site ever, blah, blah, blah. I called Tim, and I guess he got with
Yes, sir.
Ray. And, it just, the only thing that I would suggest is that, maybe they were talking about gas cans being left open on the site and this and that and the other. It's not the cleanest site. I saw a very clean site today, but anything you can do to, I think they said Cindy wrote an article in the Beacon, and I hadn't seen anything on Nextdoor since then.
Okay. Any other liaison reports? Or, excuse me, any departmental reports?
Well, I was
Yeah.
going to ask Ray to do what you just said. And then I think I was going to ask Tim to talk a little bit about his road project. And I don't know if Buck or y'all want to go.
Well, we go ahead, because you can talk to it better than I can, but he kind of went through what is in progress and where we are and everything. And like I say, we went out and saw the project today. It was just pristine. It was just really a nice looking project.
That's good. Good to hear.
Just give me 1 second. Okay, so Buck and I, Councilman Weatherby and I did go out, tour the road work that we have going on throughout the city. So as of today, Deep Canyon, Swear Engine, Prairie, and Longshot are paved. They've been paved, backfilled. We're gonna shoot hydroseed probably within the next week or two, depending on the weather, to make sure it's conducive for that. We also are working on the Mountain Dew Chameleon whitetail area. All of the new drainage structures have been put in place. The head walls are up. Everything's good there. We've got road base down. We've backfilled all of that already. So we're probably going to pave the whitetail chameleon area probably the first or second week of January, again, weather permitting. So we're coming along great. We're doing well. And y'all just approved the change order for them to continue down Mountain Dew, so we're way ahead of the game.
Excellent.
Thank y'all. Do you have any questions?
Any questions? Okay, Jeff, anything else?
No, ma'am. Oh, no, sir.
Okay.
Flashes of Elsie there.
We'll talk afterwards. Okay, I then will, we're about to go into executive session relating to the Michael R. Coffey claim, including but not limited to the affidavit of perfected claim of lien, a City of Horseshoe Bay, UCC financing statement, Texas Secretary of State filing number 2500-569-77595, commercial invoice number HSB-081-825-001, and account number MRC-2025-0818. And we're going to go into executive session when we recess for a consultation with our city attorney pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071. So I am going to recess our,
We're convening into
Yes.
executive session at the,
and we will convene after
announce the time.
executive session. It is 4:47, and no action will be taken during the executive session.